So first of all, thank you for coming. We couldn't have asked for nicer weather. Last year at this time, I had been out at, I go get golf tickets, reduced golf price tickets out at Sierra Sage. And last year it was like 19 degrees and it was bitter cold. So much better this morning. So we got a nice day. Anyway, my name is Dave McNinch. I'll tell you a little bit about myself before we get going. I've lived in Reno my whole life, born and raised here. I graduated from the University of Nevada, Reno with a degree in renewable natural resources with a specialty in wildlife management. That's where I got my interest in birds, some ornithology class with Fred Reiser. It was the year that Fred transitioned with Alan Gubonic. So I had both of them. That's where I got to meet both of them. And got me into ornithology, got me into bird watching. That was back in 1985. And I've been involved ever since. So I've been part of the Lahontan and Audubon Society board at that time. I've raised my family here. I've got 4 boys. They're all getting married and having kids now, so we're to that phase of life. And I've been retired from a public health profession for the last 7 years, and trying to find smooth water here, trying to find some hobbies and habits that I can live with. But life's busy, so I'm glad to be here. It kind of takes me back to something that I used to do quite a bit more of, and maybe I can do a little more in the future. But today we're here to talk about Christmas bird counts. And I'll just ask you guys a couple of quick questions. Does anybody have any idea how Christmas bird counts came to be?
It was Central Park in New York, but I don't remember past that.
Okay, I believe that's right. I wasn't that specific. You're nailing it here. So, yeah.
Because in New York City, we all know about the Central Park effect, right? And so there were a whole bunch of people that on Christmas Day would end up meeting up in Central Park, and they just started compiling their checklists, and that's how it informally started.
Okay, so and a little bit deeper, back in the late 1800s, it was very common for communities, for family units, to go do an annual Christmas hunt. That's what they did as part of their Christmas celebration. They would all get up in the morning and they'd go do a Christmas hunt, and they would basically just hunt whatever they thought necessary. You know, there was a conscience developing about conservation and the importance of wildlife, but back in that day, it was, you know, more of an anomaly than not. So you had these Christmas hunts that occurred, and a gentleman by the name of Frank Chapman, and I do believe it was in New York, decided that it wasn't his gig. That's not something that he really cared to do. So he took a little time and he thought, what can I do to pique my interest in wildlife? And he decided that going out and doing looking at birds, bird watching, basically count birds. And it grew very quickly. It became very popular. That was right around 1900. And that was kind of the foundation and the basis of these Christmas bird counts, was the tradition of going out and doing something other than hunting wildlife and hunting birds. It was another way of enjoying them. So that's kind of the foundation that started this. And of course, as time goes on, you see opportunity. There's opportunity that can be had. The activity grows, and we start to develop this conscience that, hey, this thing could be more than just even something that you do at Christmas, something that you that maybe has value. So this concept of citizen science kind of came to bear here. So this is kind of where the citizen science stuff began, and the Christmas bird counts are still believed, still considered the longest consistently running citizen science project in the world. So today, I can't give you the exact numbers, but it's hundreds, if not thousands, of bird counts, and certainly thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of people participate each year in these counts. And it's grown into, because of the citizen science, of course, you start developing, how things need to be done and some parameters, because we're going to try to establish baselines, and we're going to try to establish some usable, statistically valid data. That's what Audubon has been doing. Is they've been trying to, okay, we've got tons of data. Some of these counts have been going on for a very long time. How do some of the noise is coming out of them just because of the length that they've been operating? So how do we take advantage of that? That's where you see some of the rules. That's why we'll get into this in a minute, but that's why we have certain areas. We try to be as consistent as we can when we bird our areas, when we're counting the rules for our time, miles traveled, time out of the car. There's a lot of different things we'll go over in just a minute, but it's because Audubon is finding a way to use that data, and it's created this involvement from community. You don't have to be a scientist to participate. You just have to have an interest. So kind of opens the door for you to be scientists for a day. That's really the crux of a Christmas bird count. So with respect to the Truckee Meadows count, any idea when our first count occurred here? Any ideas? Rough guess. Just throw something out there. What's that?
50 years?
50 years?
60s.
60s? Okay.
1963,
Okay, you're really close. 64. Okay. All right. Any other guesses? Okay, so some of the first counts that occurred here in the Truckee Meadows occurred in the 1940s. So there's records of from 46 and 47. There's references to counts prior to 46 in some of those records. I haven't tracked those down, but I've tracked down a bunch of the others. This particular count has been consistently going since 1964. So you were right about that. So this count has been consistently conducted since 1964, and I don't know. To me, it's special. I've been doing it since '85, and so this will be my 40th year on this particular count. We have one gentleman that's been doing it since '72, and he'll be here again. And so he was almost from the beginning. That's a pretty good track record. That's a long time to be doing anything. So, any idea? Any idea how many species we might find in a particular day on this count?
like in total of all those?
Total number of species. Yeah. In our circle. Yeah. Well, you know what? I kind of dropped the ball a little bit. So right now, one of the things to put boundaries on to have some consistency, so we can have consistent data to compare year to year. We have our count circles, okay? And our count circle here in the Reno count is, anybody familiar with Wheeler Reservoir or Stanley Lake down off of South McCarran? Hash Lane, for those of you who've been here for a long time. So that's our count circle. And then it's a 7.5 mile radius from there. So we have a 15-mile diameter circle. And we break that into we divide that into a bunch of areas, and that's where the assignments come from. So we have these count circles, and so every year our count is conducted within that count circle. We don't go outside of it. We stay within of it, and every group has boundaries so that we don't cross over. We try to minimize that as much as possible. So when we go out, we'll tally each and every species that we see, including subspecies, and we'll count each and every bird. It doesn't matter if it's a starling or a pigeon or a Canada goose or a Audubon warbler, which I've been hearing. Doesn't matter. They all get documented, okay? And the idea here is just to have as an accurate account and as a complete account inside that circle as possible. That's the whole idea behind it. So what rare bird did you see? And how many species did you get? And that's kind of where I wanted to take the conversation. So we talk about this idea that how many species, and there's a reason I bring it up, and I'll share with you in a minute. But that's really not the idea behind the data that's being collected. It's really kind of for lack of a better term, more of a biomass issue. We're really probably more interested in the total number of birds being seen, and even breaking that down to individual species, and how they fluctuate and differ. That's the real power of the citizen science project that you guys participate in here. So It really does kind of boil down to a biomass. But the really fun part, the one that really puts us out here, gets us interested, is how many species we can total for the day, and did anybody find anything rare and unusual. The overall scheme of things probably doesn't mean much. It makes it fun. That's the fun part, okay? So I want to make sure that everybody understands the value of what you're doing is really more of a biomass issue. It's really how many species, how many birds are we seeing? And is it going up and down, and how does that relate to individual species within that? So the fact that we had an eastern phoebe a couple years ago, we're going to see birds like that once in a while, but we hadn't had one before, and the chances of us getting another one's pretty slim. So what does it mean? Not much for the day. So kind of blew up the count, I'll tell you that. So yeah, it did. So anyway, so what do you believe is our total species? We'll talk the fun stuff for a minute.
70.
Okay, 70?
I think last year ours was like what, like 150?
Yeah, that's, see, so Jada was part of that, so she's got a good memory. So okay, so anybody else?
I think so, yeah. They pushed me over 100 on my eBird list.
Yeah.
I'm really happy.
Yeah. So anybody else?
120.
Okay, 120. Manisha's been doing her homework, I think. So yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. So last year we were right at that 119, 120 mark. Okay, and it was an all-time high for our count. And I wanted to bring it up because over time, and it's funny because there's an article that was written by a gentleman, and when I read it, we follow in their path. This is from a account in Massachusetts he probably wrote the article 35, 40 years ago. It is our count to a T. You could put Truckee Meadows everywhere he referred to his count, and it's us. It's kind of a neat article. And so what he experienced and what we've experienced here is that over time, we get out in the field and we count our birds. And when this thing started, we had as few as 1 or 2 participants. That's it. Okay. And now we've grown. So how much does having more people drive what we're seeing, the results of our counts? Okay. So we have the number of total participants here. Okay. And how does that affect what we see throughout the day and our total numbers and things of that nature? So what happens is over time, we have more interest. Okay. And this count has probably 5 distinct periods of time. Okay. From 64 to the early 70s, and then 70s to 80s, and probably 80s through the 90s, where we see this growth in the number of species that we start consistently seeing on the count. Okay, so it started as low as like 50 to 60 species was all that this count people were seeing on this count. Up in the mid 90s, we kind of crossed that threshold where we jumped into the upper 90s, low 100s on most counts. Most years, that's what we could expect to see on any given count day. That number is jumped up over 110 now. So we're probably in that 110 to 113 range. We're probably in the second or third year of maybe a new level that we've hit. Part of that has to do with we've got better optics, we've got better information, we've got a lot of birding going on pre-count, so we have a better idea of what's around. No doubt, much better birders. I can tell you the difference between when I was started, back in the mid 80s and now, stark difference. The knowledge and the participation level is substantially higher. I took pictures and took it to people to tell me what they were. That's not happening now. There's different ways of getting that information and sharing that information. So much different now. The interest, and what I believe is really driving it is the number of hours that we actually spend out of the car. Okay, so we have to track our hours in our car, hours on foot, miles walked, miles driven. And what's really driving our increase is the fact that we are getting a few more people. They're getting out of their cars and we're walking. We're getting out, and that's where you see things. Even at the expense of not covering our whole area sometimes. Last year was a great example. We had horrible, horrible weather last year. You couldn't do anything by car. I got out and walked in the snow. I just said, you just got to get out and you just got to beat the brush. I had a fantastic day, and we set an all-time record for the count. And the weather was atrocious. It was horrible. what other things can we talk about here with Chris's bird count?
What about like section boundaries? Like what if a bird flies from one section to another?
Okay, all right. So this is that science part that where the noise kind of comes and goes. I'll use an example. There's a couple of major examples here in town. One are the gulls, and the other are Canada geese. Okay. As the day goes on, it's not just that a few individuals go from point A to point B. We're talking hundreds of birds go from point A to point B. They might get double counted. So originally the theory would be we're going to have an equal number going back and forth. So it's going to balance out type of a mentality. That's not how it works. Okay. So what we really understand now is that the gulls are at a certain place at a certain time of day, and our area leaders are probably going to go there and count the gulls first or last at the end of the day, as the case usually is. And that's where, so we're trying to minimize, just because of our understanding and our knowledge of our local avifauna, how that works. And so that's how we try to minimize it as much as possible. But over time, the noise comes out, because you might show that you have 5,000 geese one year and 8,000 the next, but over time, you're going to see that trend, that they probably bounce back and forth between a certain deviation, and it all plays out to where it becomes statistically valid. So does that answer your thought there? So the idea behind this is so you're going to have your certain area, and it's important to stay within those boundaries.
Yeah.
Collect your data, and when you come back, we have a tally session, a post count tally session. For the Truckee Meadows, I usually do that at my house, and if you participate, you're more than welcome to come over and be part of that. Historically, we would sit down and we'd say, okay, area 1, and we'd go right down our list of all the birds that we expect to see. Common loon, area 1, no. Yes, no, yes, no, 5, 10, whatever. It used to be, I would collect all the numbers right then and there. That's a lot of work. 120 times 16 areas, so that's a lot of yeses and nos and numbers. So what we did this last year that seemed to work well was, did anybody see a common loon, yes or no? Because everybody's interested in the total species. Nobody's interested in the total biomass at the end of this thing. But at the end of it, what I do is I'll take the numbers from each and every one of those areas, and I'll total up how many of those species were seen, how many of those individual birds were seen, individual species, how many of each one was seen. Then I have to get into a system, and I have to input all that data, weather information, effort, miles walked, participants, all that. I have to load that all into a computer system that National operates and maintains. And that's where they take that, then that information is there for them to process. So you're kind of doing the grassroots part of it. That's what this is all about. And then behind the scenes, there's a lot more that goes on. If you're ever interested, you're more than welcome to come watch me add numbers, but it's just a lot of addition and input is really. Dave.
Is there any past list of the birds that have been seen historically?
Yeah, that's a good question. Any ideas on how many species have been seen on the Truckee Meadows count? Total, different species. Oh, total number ever seen. All, yeah, total. Okay, 200. 187, all right. All right. 186, okay, yeah, all right. So it is just over 200. I think we're at about 203, 205, somewhere around in that area. It's just a little over 200. And we do seem to add to that list 1 or 2 every year. I'll give you an example.
We don't see anymore, too.
There's some we don't see anymore, and which is part of that article I was telling you about. It's kind of intriguing. So let's talk about that for just a minute. So some of the information, I'll use rough-legged hawk as an example. From 1964 to 2010, we'd missed rough-legged hawk 1 time on this count. That was it. Okay. From 2010 to present, I think we've only had them 3 times on this count. So you can see, without having to do any, they're just what's happened, right? And what's happened with them is that they're wintering further north. There's a study out of Idaho, and that's and we're seeing it right here on our count. We see it right in our bird count data. We can see that. We used to get pheasants on this count. We don't get pheasants anymore for obvious reasons. So we used to not have red-shouldered hawks, and now we expect 6 to 10 of them.
Oh,
Yep.
with the Eurasian collared dove.
Eurasian collared doves,
Now.
black phoebes, great-tailed grackles, Anna's hummingbird.
Yeah.
Those are all species. Shorebirds. We used to get killdeer, but now we frequently get least sandpipers, dowitchers, Dunlin mixed in. We had a semi-palmated greater yellowlegs. These are all birds that we used to never get. We rarely got, when I started on this, it was very rare for us to get ravens. Ravens were an anomaly. And now look at them, you know. You can see the number of, the total number, and this is all, we can make inferences. There's statistical analysis that needs to be done, but just by looking at the data, our number of scrub jays and goldfinches have gone substantially up for obvious reasons. We got a lot of development, people feed, and they like neighborhoods. That's just how it is, and you can see it right in the data. So I'm gonna read one little thing. I took a picture out of this article last night. So this was from 1946 count, and it says, same area as in 1942 and subsequent count. So I don't have that information, but town, 10% of the count area. So our count area goes roughly from Hogue Road up here by Bonanza, a little further north than that, down to Steamboat, and from where I-80 crosses the Truckee River to Vista. Okay, those are the 4 north, south, east, and west points, and then draw your circle from there. So 10% of that area was town, marsh and open water, 30%, ranch land, 35%, coniferous timber, 5%, desert, 20%. What a difference a century makes, right? Very different looking area now. So, yeah. Anybody have any questions? Diane, you had a, no, you're good? Okay.
I have a question. You're talking
Yeah.
about the circle being broken up into 15 regions, sectors.
Roughly, yeah.
Who decided that? And has that been consistent from the start?
Yes, okay, so mostly consistent from the start, but as areas develop and we get access to some areas and less access to others, we've had to adjust boundaries and move things around. So as a compiler, I inherited ask Lauren and Diane, it's hilarious. One of the oldest topo maps you've ever seen in your life, okay? And it has got so many iterations of areas and splits on it to kind of account for, some of it at the time was probably people's interest. Where are you interested in going? When you got 5 people doing a whole count, you know, you're hey, where do you want to go? Because it's, I want you to be fulfilled here. I want you to do this. Now we're kind of to that spot where we're going to try to put you where we need you, because there's enough people to have these consistent leaders for each area. So there are people that have had the same areas for decades, okay? And some of that is, I'll use Dave Worley as an example. This will be his 53rd year on this count. And the area that he has, very few people want, because it's up in the mountains. And he walks 7 miles up in the mountains, okay? And rain or shine. Last year he actually came out because he was a little worried. And so I haven't found anybody that is interested in going with him very often, but it's available. And so those areas got divided based on new roads, new markers, new access. Rosewood used to be wide open, now it's not. So we get aced out of certain areas, opened up into others. So might manipulate a line here and there, but largely those areas have just been in place for 40 years. And it's what's worked. There's a lot of people that have been in their areas for 10, 20, 25 years. And as time goes on, Colin, we're all gonna age out. And some of those areas do have people that are they're probably in the next 5 years, we're probably done. And so I've tried to get new interest in here, and I've tried to ask people to come, but it's hard. The interest here, so we've always been too small to be big and too big to be small, this count. It's a weird dynamic. So we have always sat right around that 25 to 30 participants, rarely less, rarely more, no matter what we did. With Lauren's efforts and with the DEI stuff and with Lauren's efforts, and with what the Northwest Nevada Birding Alliance is doing, the interest is growing. I mean, here we are talking of this is an orientation. So now we got to adapt to that. How do we facilitate more people participating? And the goal for me, it doesn't seem like it, but out of those 16 counts, I've actually been making calls every year to people. I still don't know who Jordan is, but I want to know who Jordan is. So I try to make calls to people that I see posting on eBird a lot. And I'm asking them, are you interested in doing stuff? Well, let's go. Because that's where I have my information. That's what I have available to me. And so 4 of those areas have new people in them, younger people now. And that's what we want, is people that are confident with their counts and confident birding, that can take other people with them. And as time goes on, somebody might move out of this area, but one of those people that's been younger, I'll just say it, it's, it doesn't have to be somebody younger, okay? I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there like that. But my point is that if we don't bring in new blood, it dies. It's as simple as that. There's no way around that. It's just a simple fact of life. So to have new energy that we can put into those areas so that it persists over time is important. That's how I got into mine. My area was given to me by Hugh Judd, and I don't know. Diane might remember Hugh. I don't know, but yeah. So he's gone now, and that's how I ended up with my area. Is that he did the best he could to recruit and facilitate change, and that's the important part of this. So.
Areas. Say I live down in DeMonte wetlands, and I spend a lot of time down there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a list by area that is available to sign up for?
So this is one of the things that we talked about at when we met Bruce and Diane and Lauren and I. When COVID hit, we used to meet in the morning at a McDonald's to the point where they even asked us to leave a few times. But we were persistent. We'd just show up every year, and managers would change and everything would straighten out for a while. So we would have everybody meet and make our assignments. Okay, there'd been a push well before that I'd rather leave my house and just go out. I'd rather have my packet and get out. So when COVID hit, that really forced that change to happen. Okay, hindsight and looking at where we're at now, it's also created some challenges, some problems for us, okay? Because we don't have this. We don't have people that can just show up. Bruce pointed out that, unless somebody reads the article and knows to contact me and does it, not at 9 o'clock at night or before a certain date so that I can, make arrangements and coordinate and stuff, they're out. They don't have any way to get involved. So this next year, so that's what this was all about. And this next year, we'll reinstitute that meeting in the morning. I know that there's going to be people that would rather not do it, but it's important to at least some of the area people. We can just meet in the morning and we can make the assignments right there at the time so that they have a place to go to. I'm sorry, I said in the morning of the count. We'll do it pre-count. We'll do it a few days before the count, so that I can hand out packets. And these leaders of these areas, they only got there because they participated for years. That's all. That was the only prerequisite, I guess, is that they've just participated. They know the process. They know the area. So it could be any of you taking over an area. If you're interested, and I mean that sincerely, this is just a function of having people that are confident and have an idea of what they're doing, that they're the ones that become these area leaders. So for this year, what'll happen is I'll take down anybody that's wanting to do this. I'll take your name, and then I'll just assign, I'll coordinate contact between areas. And if you have a specific area that you're interested, write it down and I'll do my best to get you in there. I don't think I've ever not been able to do that. Yeah.
It seems I participated in the Oregon in Eugene County. There were 100 people in the field.
Yeah.
There were several people that all they did that helped you. You were the compiler.
Right.
You were over here.
Yeah.
There were other people that got everybody together, got the packets out.
Right.
So they were like administrators.
Yeah.
To help.
Yeah.
So you just did the data, and other
Yeah.
people did some of the organizing.
Right.
And then there wasn't a thing about that morning. You, as a section
Yeah.
leader. You had your packet. You knew who your
Yeah.
volunteers were. You knew everything that you were going to do 3 or 4 days before.
Right, and that's what we've been doing a week in advance for the most part. This is what prompted it, though. Bruce had a bad experience, and so we're trying to fine tune how we can do this without giving people bad experiences. You don't want your participation to, I'll just tell you another part of my life. I wasn't going to bring it up, but I served on the State Wildlife Commission for 23 years. Okay, and the one thing that for better or worse, ultimately it got me kicked off of the commission by the governor. He didn't like how I was doing things, I guess. But my where I planted my feet had to do with my perception of how the public would support the agency. So if our policies would create a situation where people did not want to support the agency, the Department of Wildlife and Conservation of Wildlife, then I wasn't going to support it. And so I had some real controversial issues. They didn't like it. I was kind of a standalone on a couple of them, and that's politics for you. But the bottom line is, I don't want you guys to have a bad experience. I want you to get involved. It's all about grassroots stuff. Having an open door and having the opportunity, the ability to come and participate and having a good experience, in my belief, locks you guys into supporting wildlife conservation on a broad scale. That's what I see the importance of these bird counts. It's an opportunity to get you involved and aware of conservation. So the next time there's a bill that goes through that says, a bond that's going to require your vote to pass for, $30 million or $100 million, that you go in there and you hit the yes button and you're all in because you've had good experiences with wildlife and you want to conserve it. So that's how I see this. So
I've never done one of these. It sounds like today there'll be 8-ish people per sector. How do you tell people what to do? Or how do you, within your little group?
it's a little chaos. So what's going to happen is you guys will go out and you'll all just be bird watching, and you're going to have to kind of coordinate and collaborate with each other. And I'll try not to put you in that big a group when we go into our sectors. Okay. So you're going to have smaller groups, people that you can go around in one car ideally is what we do. And, but you're going to say, I hear this and I hear that, or I see 4 of these, and somebody says, well, I see 3 more over here. And you guys are going to have to come to an agreement on how many are really there. And then you're going to document it and you're going to move on. It's time to move on so you can do the best you can to cover your area. So, it's one of those things where, my youngest child is a grazer when he eats. It takes him 6 hours, and he just grazes. Birders are like that too. Some are grazers and some are, hey, let's move on and let's eat the whole meal right now. Let's get out of here, And so you're going to have that dynamic, and you do the best you can to cover your area is the key. You don't want to go so fast that you miss. But what I'm saying is that you're not likely to stop for lunch somewhere. Okay, so you're going to have to bring snacks and food with you. Some areas there's going to be a lot more walking. So if you're concerned about that, I need to know. I would need to know that. I'd prefer an area that you do less walking. You might get assigned to tallying something. To tally the birds. Maybe you're the driver. So just expect that it's not your typical bird walk like we're going to walk through Rancho San Rafael. Some areas are like that. Some you're going to be in a car a little bit more. I cover about. In my area, I think I average about 56 miles. I got a very particular route, but it's like 56 miles by the time I get done with my day. 38 to 56. Yeah, Dave.
How long would you stop at one location in your 56 miles?
Well, so I spend about half my day in the car and about half my day out of the car because I've got some neighborhoods that I zigzag through. So I'm about a 50-50 guy. Dave Worley up in the mountains, he'll drive literally less than a mile, but he'll walk 7 or 8 miles. And his whole day is comprised of walking. Jeff Bleem, who some of you might know, walks the river, and he pretty much walks the whole day. He'll put in 8 or 9 miles. So some of those are a little heavier walking. Some are a little steeper walking. Some areas are a little bit more boring than others, but no less important. That's important to remember. very true, because you may not get the juicy, you know, you may not get the GSR pond where the Pacific loon is at, but you know, if you're up in the mountains, you know, you might see the only golden crown kinglets for the day. You might see the only pygmy nuthatch for the day. Those are all important. It's all important. So it all has value. And
Well, now since the count is so developed, the area, a
yeah,
lot of it is walking through neighborhoods.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. There's a
walking
lot of
street by
that.
street,
Yeah.
you know, and
Finding your honey holes, you know, everybody has their little spot. You know I have a little spot, it'd blow your mind, where I find snipe every year. And they're not always the only snipe, but they're usually one of the few. And it's this little puddle that you have to literally dodge 6-lane South Virginia traffic to get them. But I do it every year.
get your mud boots on.
Well, I walk alongside of a road with cars going by me from me to you about 70 miles an hour, but I do it. And I get them every year. So yeah, yeah, they're not going to be there much longer. It'll be developed sooner than later. But so anyway, and the other thing I wanted to say was, Lauren has been helping me redo the maps. And when you get to a certain point, when you're somebody like me, you have no idea how daunting a project that can be. For her, it's like simple. It's simple stuff. She does it every day. So I really appreciate you helping me with the maps. They're going to be awesome. I still have an old map from probably the early 70s. It has Hash Lane on it. It doesn't even have McCarran Loop Road anywhere on it. That's what we've been working with. So I really appreciate that. And she and others are going to help make that electronic, so that you'll be able to just pull it up on your phone. So you'll have your area on your phone. Maybe not this year, but next year. And the other thing that's going to happen is they're going to help us. They're going to help put this into eBird, so we do the trip reports and then a total trip report. So as you go along, we're going to get away from the awful paperwork that you're going to see if you go out, and we'll move away from that stuff, and it'll all be electronic. So that'll help with a bunch of stuff, and that's going to make this so much easier. But that comes with people that grew up with it, because it's an anomaly to me. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah.
Is the date set for?
Yeah, so this count is always conducted on the first Saturday of the count period. This is kind of interesting. So it used to be from from December 14th through January 5th. It used to always run from the second weekend of December, or the third weekend of December, to the first week of January. The date always fluctuated. What they've done now, and then this count has always been the first Saturday of that count period, of that count time. The other counts are pretty set. And Fallon, we move around a little bit to work it out so we can get people out there. Audubon has now set those dates that it will be conducted from December 14th through January 5th. So now we're always still that first Saturday. So the earliest this count will ever be is December 14th, and the latest it will ever be is December 20th, which is this year. So that's how it works out. So we're normally before Carson. This is the one exception on the calendar that Carson would go before us.
Can you give a quick overview of all the circles that are kind of in our general area?
Yeah, so you have one up at South Lake Tahoe. There's one that generally operates out of Sierra Valley. There's one that generally operates at Honey Lake, which is Susanville area. We have Fallon, Hart Mountain, which is northern Nevada. Well, it's actually Hart Mountain's in southern Oregon. You have Sheldon, which is up by the Virgin River, so that's northern Nevada. We have Fallon. There's a Winnemucca count that's been conducted the last few years. Carson City, Gardnerville, and Truckee Meadows. Those are the ones that I'm aware of. Pyramid Lake, excuse me. Yep, Pyramid Lake always. Pyramid Lake. Used to be one in Hawthorne, but it doesn't operate anymore. So there's actually one in Elko and Jarbidge, if you're ever interested in those. If you've ever been to Jarbidge, winter would be an experience.
Okay, if you just Google Christmas bird count on the National Audubon Society page, there's actually a map and it shows all the circles, and you can check out. So if you're traveling, if you're traveling for Christmas, you might hit, a Christmas bird count in some other state.
Yeah.
You're out there.
Yeah, there's a couple down in Vegas area, Henderson and Desert National Wildlife Refuge. There's one in Ely. Usually there's a bird count in Ely, believe it or not. And even over in Baker, I think they have one. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Which ones do you do?
So I've consistently done, I used to do the Honey Lake every year, but I don't do it anymore. I used to do the Carson City. I did it for 25 years, but I haven't done it for a while. So I do Truckee Meadows, I do Fallon, I do Pyramid Lake. Those are the three that I do year in and year out. And I think this year I'll surpass, be my 150th Christmas bird count this year, I think is one of those will be. I have to look again. So, but I've done South Lake Tahoe, I've done Hawthorne, I've done the, gosh, what other ones? Anyway, yeah.
So if we want to sign up for more than one Christmas bird count, can we let our field trip leader know if it's one of yours?
Yeah, so I compile the Fallon. I kind of got that one by default. People, the lady that was doing it before passed away, so we didn't want it to die. It's a really cool count. You never know. We had a LeConte thrasher out there last year, if that gives you any idea what it can be like. So yeah, if you want to do either one of those, let me know. I'll just get into the toughness of this thing. Some of these counts, and Pyramid Lake's a good example, you have to coordinate 100% and very directly with the tribe. And about half of their board would say, we don't want anybody out here. The other half would say, yeah, we'll welcome them out here, but there's going to be rules and boundaries. Okay, that's just how it works. That's just the nature of the beast. So there's a real direct, so there's always been an effort to kind of keep the numbers down on that count. Half of the area is lake, which we used to have a boat, but we don't take a boat out on the lake anymore. So there's a big chunk of area that you just bird from shore as best you can. So there's dynamics like that work on some of these counts where Fallon, we have the Naval Air Station. So I can't put anybody on there but a retired a guy that worked for the Naval Air Station. And when he goes, we're just going to miss a chunk of our area over there. We'll just have to bird from the fences. So you have those dynamics that you deal with. Out in Fallon, also TCID, the Truckee Conservation and Irrigation District, they own all the ditches. They own rights of way to all the ditches, but you have to get permission from each and every private property owner along those ditches to access them. You can't do it. So I knock on a few doors, and I've made relationships so I can just go out there, but it's hard to expect anybody to do that. These are some of the things that you get into. So some of the counts have put limitations on how many people, and for better or worse, I can only speak for my two. And if there's people interested in them, I'll get you in there. So.